Since 1992, Genesis House has been helping real people heal from addiction on their private recovery campus in beautiful Palm Beach County, Florida. Their family-owned program is accredited by the Joint Commission and offers detox and dual diagnosis treatment in a comfortable and confidential setting. At Genesis House, they focus on treating the underlying causes of addiction. Their comprehensive approach includes psychiatric care, individual and small group therapy, trauma healing techniques, and holistic care including yoga, massage, and animal-assisted therapy. After treatment, their clients enjoy the lifelong support of a nationwide network of Genesis House alumni. Call Genesis House today at 1-800-737-0933 to speak with someone who understands. Visit them on the web at www.genesishouse.net. It's time to start your journey to a long and successful recovery.
Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is brought to you by the Friends in Recovery community, a thriving network of individuals who are fighting back against the stigma of addiction. Join our hosts as they speak up about the real issues of addiction, treatment, and recovery. Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, here are your Friends in Recovery.
Welcome, everybody, to the Friends in Recovery podcast. I'm your host, Jersey Ed, along with my co-host, Noontime with Sky and Tiff. Hello, ladies. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Fabulous.
Feeling a little sassy.
Yeah, no, new hair, Tiff. What happened? You missed one show and you grow all kinds of hair.
It was a really incredible weekend, and I woke up and here I have this hair.
Boom, hair. Can you pass that secret along to me one day?
Yes.
All right, good. Email me it, okay?
The secret will cost you like $39.99.
All right, I can do that. Well, it looks wonderful. And for you guys who are not watching, you're going to have to come over to YouTube and watch what we're talking about for Tiff. How you doing, Sky? Good?
Fabulous.
Good. Well, first and foremost, guys, I'd like to thank Genesis House for their ongoing support, of course, for this podcast. Without them, this would not be possible. So thank you, Genesis House. And, like I say every week, guys, listen back to that commercial. I hope you guys really are doing that. If you're struggling, stop here, rewind to the commercial that was just played and listen to it, because it's really, really important. There's a phone number in there, and Carl probably put the phone number up here too right now, and you'll see it. It's Genesis House number. If you're struggling, just call or send us an email at help@friendsandrecoverypodcast.com or comment below. Whatever you guys do, just get some help. That's all.
Yeah,
just get
whatever you feel comfortable with, right?
Yes, exactly. However you feel comfortable, reach out, take the first step, and just do it. So again, I'd like to thank Genesis House for all that. This week's show topic, step 3, the spiritual principle, which is faith. And stay tuned for some amazing recovery. Spit it all out, right? So why my mind is racing 1,000 miles an hour. I just drank coffee. So today, guys, I will be using, I'm telling you, because I had so I'm going to tell you why. I'm going camping this weekend, right? This is the real shit, man. This is real shit.
Yeah.
Going camping this weekend. I just bought myself a nice French press. I use one here at the house, but I always had a percolator when we go camping, and it gets all over the place. It boils over. And I'm like, I'm going to get me a nice French press. And it's a camping French press, right? So I figured it out and I did it all, and I drank like 3 cups of coffee. So that's why I'm talking a million miles an hour, 1,000, blah, 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 on and on and on. Because I drank the whole damn pot of coffee. So there you go. It has nothing to do with the literature we're using at all today.
He's going to have to take a potty break about halfway through the show.
Right? Plus, I got a bunch of water I'm drinking. So back to our regular.
Are you wearing your Depends? Did you put your diaper on?
Yes, I do it. That's how I get through this show. These extra long shows that we do now. So
right.
All right, guys. So the literature we're using today is going to be. I'm going to be using the 12 and 12. And here's a shout out to Rob Hooper. Rob Hooper's step principle handout sheet. If any of you guys are from listening from Genesis House, a client or alumni, you'll know what I'm talking about. And also the Life Recovery Workbook. It's the green workbook. And Tiff is going to be using Life Recovery Workbook and the Daily Reflections. I'd like to see what that is about because I did not read the Daily Reflections today. So, and Skylar's, of course, our NA guru, the how and why, the basic text, and here's something different: the ACA Red Book, brothers and sisters. Can I get an amen? There it is.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Can I?
Preach, Brother Ed.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So,
My kids really think I say Jesus like that. 'Cause they say, Mom, say Jesus. And I'm like, Jesus. And they're like, they think I really say it.
Jesus heals, ladies and gentlemen. I could be one of those guys.
Right.
Anyway, so we're going to go to our sober shout outs after this whole mess that we just hit here. So go grab your literature. And we'll keep the show going for you. When you get back, you'll have a handful of books. So go ahead.
Ed, I would like to know. I wish people would comment below what they use for these.
Yeah.
Because I just know the ones that I use, which I kind of just pick up at random when people share them with me. Mm-hmm. So I'd love to hear what other people are using. So comment below and let us know what you're using.
Yeah, please do that. Absolutely. So, so we're going to go to some sober shout outs, Tiff, and I think Skylar has some sober shout outs.
All right. I will start us off then. The first one I want to shout out to is Maria, who's at the retreat right now.
Maria.
She just recently did her 5th step with me.
Yay.
And she got her 30 days on that day. So shout out to Maria. I want to give a shout out to that Dawn Patrol meeting that I was telling you guys about, that other morning meeting. I told them I was going to give you a shout out because people just know me as the friend in recovery. And so anyway, Dawn Patrol, it's at 7:45 a.m. Central Standard Time. And then I also want to give a quick shout out to my friend Kevin. Right now, he's really going through a hard time, and I really admire his strength and perseverance during this really difficult time. And so if I could ask people to send some prayers out to Kevin, that would be great. Just put him out in the planet, please. And that's all I have for shout outs. Over to you, Sky.
Prayers to Kevin. Prayers to Kevin.
So I have a shout out for Heidi. This is one of my friends I met at a meeting, and she's, I think, up to day 5 today, which is a big deal. For weeks, she's been really pushing it and trying and reaching out to me, and she's still been attending the meetings, but she's finally, and so she's coming along, and it's so hard in the beginning, and we know that. So that's why I really want to give her a shout out, because she's really like kicking butt, trying, reaching out, and that's what it's all about, right? Yeah. So, but yeah, and just Jessica and Jolene from the Liverpool meeting.
Cool.
Is that? Do they know John and Paul and George and Ringo?
No, but I'm gonna.
That was last week's joke.
I know. I got to stop those jokes. So I would like to give a shout out, guys. I've been on it before, but when I go running about 7:30 in the morning, Eastern time, there's a meeting at 7:30 called Good Morning Avalon, and sometimes I get on it, sometimes I don't. But Tiffany sent all the information this morning to us, and I'm like, instead of listening to Twisted Sister and Bon Jovi, I might as well get some good recovery while I'm running.
Exactly.
And I did. And it was really good meeting today. So a good shout out to everybody over there. And also, guys, I also want to shout out, and we don't do this a lot, but I want to give a shout out to the Friends in Recovery community. Those people are amazing over there. I mean, everybody, from Beth to, everybody over there, John L. and everybody in that community is just amazing. So we couldn't do it without everybody, even people who come in, the newbies too, and everybody who just shows up for the first time. It's amazing. So shout out to them. And if you want to get your sober shout outs to us, please email us at email us at
help at friendsinrecoverypodcast.com.
I only have friendsinrecoverypodcast.com on here, so I have to redo that. So
I made that mistake. That was my error.
I know. I'm a script guy. So Tiff, since we're talking about the Friends in Recovery community over there, you want to tell us where they can find the meetings, where our listeners can find the meetings?
Sure can. We have meetings twice a day at noon and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as well as all of our additional meetings, such as we have, of course, I have to shout out the alumni and friends and the big book study, but we have the other meetings during the week. We have
meditation.
The meditation meeting. We have the loved ones group. We have the recovery 911. All sorts of things. Big book study on Sunday. What?
The first responders.
Oh, yeah. First responders. And of course, we have that new meeting at 8 a.m. on Saturdays, which is awesome. And that's the newcomers meeting where everybody's welcome.
All Eastern Standard Time. She's talking all Eastern time.
Yeah. Eastern Standard Time. He just doesn't let me finish today.
I know. It's all like coffee.
I'm reading my script, Ed. I don't know why you keep interrupting me. You have the same script.
I do.
You can see what I'm reading. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, if you want to find our meeting lists, you can go to genesishouse.net under connections. And then, of course, all of our 7 p.m. meetings are listed at the AA group, aa-intergroup.org website. So you can find us on there as well. Just search Friends in Recovery and you'll find us. And then we have our coin challenge. Yay. Attend any 30 Friends in Recovery coin meetings. Now I'm pulling an Ed. Any 30 Friends in Recovery meetings, and you will earn the highly sought after Friends in Recovery Zooming Through Recovery coin. But it's got our logo on this one side and Bill and Bob with matches.
Wait, let's see those nails. It matches everything. Look at that. Do that again. Show us that. Look at that. Matches it all, guys. You have to be on YouTube to see that. If you're not on YouTube, you're missing out. So,
and that's all I have.
This is going to be a long show.
I think guys. Sky has some social media.
Oh, no, I'm just out of control right now. So just do whatever the fuck you want at this point.
I'll be hosting today along with Sky, and Ed is the co-host.
Yes, I'm the co-host today. I'll sit back and drink my water.
Skylar and I will be hosts today.
We all have bad days, sometimes.
We do.
Yeah.
We're the newcomers. It really doesn't.
Yeah, but we're going to get 1,000 emails and a 100 comments saying this is the best show ever. It was the best show ever. I hope.
We like it when you're dorks.
Exactly.
So connect with us, though, guys. We are on Facebook. We have on the Genesis House page. You can go there, and there's groups. There is the Friends in Recovery community. There's the alumni only group, and then there's the Friends in Recovery Adventures group. So join all them for activities. And that's another thing I wanted to point out. Like, if you guys want to get involved in service, reach out to us. If you have 5 hours clean to 500 days clean, whatever, we have service for you. Also activities like, fellowship is huge outside of the rooms, so if you guys want to get involved in activities, let us know. Like, I know, there's a convention coming up. There's different things we can get involved in. Let us know. That was one of the main questions I had when I first got clean is how do you have fun in recovery?
Yeah.
So, this is it. So if you guys have any questions let us know. Also, we're on Instagram, Snapchat, and Facebook, and then Telegram. You want to go in Telegram, it's a message app. We have a big thread of everybody. So if you're struggling, you could put in the message, hey, I need someone to talk to, or hey, I just had 30 days, whatever you want to put in their group. So we have that as well.
It's a great app.
We should give a shout out to Mark, who runs our Recovery 911 meeting.
Yeah.
He wrote in the Telegram that he got the role.
He did. Yeah, he did. So, congratulations.
Congratulations, Mark.
Yeah, congratulations on getting a role, Mark. Basically, he auditioned for something, and 20 years he hasn't auditioned for anything, and he got the role that he was going
for.
Oh, nice.
That's what recovery brings, man. Look at, that's what recovery brings. So
I was thinking like a roll of quarters. I'm like, roll.
No, he's got like a roll.
ROLE. I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So congratulations. Good thinking. Yeah. So guys, thank you for listening to the Friends in Recovery pot. No, it's
Stay sober, everyone.
Night.
Stay sober, everyone. I'm done. I'm going to crash after drinking all this coffee. I'm going to be like,
at the end of the show, you're going to be like, wah, wah, wah.
Yeah. Is this over yet, guys? I'm just kidding. I'm having a good time. We had a little pre-show before, and we had a lot of good things going on. And I just also want to say what a good group we have here, the three of us. good stuff that goes out. And you know what? It's not just me saying that. Look at the comments, look at the views, look at the people who email us, so it is a good show. And we have to thank the listeners too, also for eating this information up and living their sober, good, clean life. So, but we're here for the question of the week. We're at the point of the question of the week. I promise we'll get to the meat of the show, guys. So the question of the week, what's your one big goal this year that you want to check the box on? Something that's maybe makes you afraid, or something that, it's so big that you think you're not going to do it, but you know what? Anything's possible, right? Anything's possible. And you want to check that box off and be really proud of it. So Sky, what's that one big thing you want to get done this year that you want to check the box on?
Well, there's a few things, but the main thing was like the retreat. I'm so excited about that because I've never been on one. So like that has always been on a bucket list. But I think like for a while I was scared to like jump into that commitment. You know what I mean? But like now I have like a community where I feel comfortable to make that commitment and go on a retreat with them. Like, does that make sense? Like I wasn't so involved with AA or NA where I felt comfortable going on a retreat with a bunch of people. But now I have this community with Bob Seanall. I'm just like, I don't even care if I know them. I know I'll feel comfortable there.
Absolutely.
Like that's an awesome feeling. Like that's step three right there. Feeling the flow of like that energy inside. Like I love it. Oh,
that's really good. I love it.
That's a good goal. Yeah. Tiff, what do you got? What's your one big goal that you want to check the box on?
Well, you made the question sound so deep now. So now that sounds so deep.
Get your nails done? Is that, you got them done.
Here's my thing. This is no pun intended. You made it sound so deep. I really want a swimming pool.
That's great. That's great.
I know that might sound shallow, no pun intended, but anyway, our kids are at an age, and we have a range of kids with 7 kids, obviously, but the older ones are older, so they're starting to come home and visit too on a regular basis. They're not just like partying like rock stars anymore. And then our little ones, and then we have the teenagers, which we call the middles. They're just all at a really good age to have a pool. And then also for the future, we're old. We probably could have grandkids at some point, and they'll use the pool and yada, yada, yada. And I just want one. So I've always wanted it. And my last name is Pool. That is the truth. So anyway, I want a swimming pool.
Tiffany Pool's pool.
Awesome.
It's in the works, just so you know.
All right. See, now that's a goal. That's a good goal. It doesn't have to be something physical, somewhere where you're going. That's a savings goal. That's a financial goal. Because let me tell you, pools aren't cheap, and they ain't cheap to run either.
Yeah, we had to set things aside like this, through whatever we set this goal a year ago.
Yeah. And
so, there's been things come up that we wanted to do or wanted, but didn't need. And we were like, no, there are things that we need to get done. And we know what it is. It's the pool.
Love that goal. There's nothing wrong with that. That's great. So
how about you, Ed?
Good Lord. So this is going to sound really weird, right? But because you guys know I love to talk, I talk on this show nonstop. Matter of fact, I cut everybody off on this show half the time anyway. So I'm always talking. My wife is always telling me to shut up. I was in Walmart today shopping, and I'm talking to the lady I'm talking to everybody, right? But the one thing I have never done was I want to book a public speaking commitment where I stand up in front of people for whatever it is, if it's 20 minutes, half hour, 10 minutes, and pick a topic or whatever the audience wants, and really give them some good information. So I'm taking classes on public speaking. Nice. I enrolled. I'm going to be hopefully enrolling in John Maxwell's kind of coaching program where they do a bunch of different public speaking. They do a whole bunch of different stuff. So plus it'll help me on the show also, and help me in life, and that's my big goal for this year, is to do some public speaking. So
I learned a lot actually about listening in the public speaking class that I took. You really have to have listening skills and intuition with your audience, enunciation. When you think you're going slow when you're speaking, you need to speak even slower, and it's like, because you're really going fast.
Yeah.
But
So it's
that's a great goal.
It's going to be a fun goal. And actually, I just sent Skylar a book and she sent me a picture of it. It's called Don't Drop the Mic by T.D. Jakes. A great book. It's a really, really good book. And it's
a workbook too.
It's a workbook also. So if you want a good book on public speaking, T.D. Jakes, Don't Drop the Mic. So guys, today, step 3 of spiritual principle is faith. And I'm going to read read Rob Hooper's worksheet that he sent us. It's the spiritual principles and how to use the steps in everyday living. Step 3 is faith. Allegiance to a duty or a person, loyalty. The second one definition is belief and trust in God. The third is confidence. And the fourth is a system of religious beliefs. That's what's on this worksheet. And that is what step 3 is all about. A system of religious beliefs, that might be a little pushing it, but that's for Friday night's meeting. But, again, and I think we had this conversation, Tiff, you and I, on a meeting at the end of a meeting in the parking lot, is that a God of our understanding doesn't have to be God. It doesn't have to be, it's a higher power. It could be nature, it could be the universe. So don't take this the wrong way. It just has to be something greater than yourself. Now, I wouldn't use a sponsor or a human being or a coffee cup. Some people say use a doorknob because, don't use a doorknob because, it's like all this crazy stuff. But whatever your higher power is, and that if, it says allegiance to a duty or a person, loyalty, right? So we've got to be loyal to somebody. Belief and trust in God or higher power, something bigger than myself, something I can put my faith into, something I can, like it says, turn my will and my life over to that being. And confidence, guys, you got to have a lot of confidence to do this step. Hands down. Yes. You got to have a lot of confidence, because you know what? You take your will back, that means you have no confidence. And I take my will back a lot. I'm not saying it for a long time, but I do take it back. And I have to have the confidence saying, okay, this is going to be handed over, and whatever happens, it's okay. Now, am I still scared? Am I still kind of, wondering what's going to happen? Of course, I'm a human being. But if I get involved in the process, if Ed Chancho plays God or plays a higher power, it gets all fucked up. So if I turn it over, let the process happen, look at it with a clear head and go through whatever it is, my life will be a lot better, because I'm not in control of doing these things. I'm not in control of fucking things up, because that's what I do. I mess this shit up when I take control and I take my will back. And that's why I have a sponsor. That's why I have a network. That's why I come on here. That's why I go to meetings. That's why I do all this stuff. So I leave that, I can have the taking my will back few and far between and shorter bursts. Because I'm going to take it back. I am a human being. I mean,
so what's some reasons you take your will back? Like, do you have can you
trust?
Think
Trust.
Okay. Great.
I don't trust you.
You don't trust. I was going to say mine is fear. Like
fear, trust.
Fear.
Like my wants versus what I need.
Yeah. I like what you said. What kind of putting what you just said in one little thing was like actually remaining in a place of faith. I have put written down when your fears kick in. You know what I mean? This step was really difficult for me. It took me a long time.
Still is difficult for me.
Absolutely. But now it's coming more naturally. But I had to do a lot of healing before I could fully understand this step. A lot of healing. I did a lot of work.
Yeah.
I had to, I don't trust anyone. That's still a character defect, just like you said, Ed. Like I feel like everybody's talking behind my back. I feel like people aren't going to get things done or whatever. I just can't rely on anybody. I don't like, I had to learn to be vulnerable with this step.
Spiritually naked.
Yeah. I had to learn to like myself. I mean, just learn in the beginning, I'm talking about, right? We're on step 3. I feel like, we're talking about newcomers and things like that. My self-esteem and self-worth really had to be built up for me to start trusting and
I agree. Yeah.
Turn my will over.
Yeah.
But you're right. I started taking it back. I mean,
there's a lot of open-mindedness
just,
you're talking about too. Like for all those things, you got to be open-minded to it, the process.
So a couple reasons you asked, Sky, when I take it back, my impatience. Oh my gosh.
Timing.
I take it back. Or like I don't do it as often as I used to, but I can get real heated real quick. You know, like, and I get angry and then I take it back because then it's
zero
like,
to get it real fast. That's it.
Yeah. Like this is what's going to happen and here's what's going to go down. Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It was, you know, but you have to just keep opening these doors a little bit, you know, be willing to open the doors a little bit and build up that faith, you know, and your loyalty, the belief, your confidence, like you said, is a big one. And like Bill said, that step 3 is just a beginning. It's just a beginning. Just open these doors and be willing to do it a little bit. Well, start breaking down those walls.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. Breaking down the walls. And just like you said, Tiff, you know, just open the door a little bit. And it says right at the beginning, and I probably read it every week this month because this month is so freaking long. I'm like, when are we going to get done with step 3? You know?
Yeah, but there's a lot in step 3.
We needed this. Yeah. So practicing step 3 is like opening of a door, which to all appears is still closed and locked. All we need is the key and the decision to swing the door open. And then basically it goes, and then there is only one key, and it's called willingness. And the door, it says the door can swing shut again. That's our taking our will back. And if you read the first paragraph, that's, you know, on 34 and the 12 and 12, that's what it says. And, you know, but we can open that door again, but we could take it back, you know, but it's that craziness. And how much do you want to go through that wash cycle, that spin cycle, right? How many times you want to close it open and close it open? Right. I found it's probably better just leave that door open, let my trust go, and that's it. But again, I'm human and I do close it every once in a while, you know? So,
I can remember, I was looking back at some of my notes from these workbooks, and I remember it asked a question like, remembering the first time you started to open the door basically to trusting in a higher power. And in recovery, it was the group of drunks. But I was thinking about that question today as I was reading it. Like, I can remember the first time, even just as a human, that I opened the door a little bit, that there was something bigger that I could faith and I could rely on somebody. And it was the first time when I was dating Chris that I opened up and kind of told him my story, you know, not my drinking history story, because this was prior to recovery. But I just remember trusting someone just enough to be able to share my real life, how I really am, what I look like on the inside versus the outside, you know? And I actually used that phrase. I need to break down a lot of walls. I need to break, you know, to be in a relationship, because this is kind of where our discussion was, like, how can we be in a relationship? Because I was like, I'm not ready. Yeah. And I have too many walls. And then I trusted him for like a split second. So something, you know, how people are divinely put in your path.
This step is so invisible that we like that right there. That's the invisible part of the step.
Yes. Yes. So he's like, my path was crossed with him for a reason, many reasons. And a lot of times it's because he saved my life. And
well, this step seems very easy. Like, okay, just turn my will, I can do that. And let's get to step 4, because this step comes before a pretty daunting next 2 steps, if you think about it, right? So I think this doesn't get the light that it should get. Step 3. If you read further on in step 3, this says that this step is the keystone to all of our steps, right? The keystone. And this is the keystone, basically, is that big stone in between all the other little stones that hold it up. Obviously, everything works, but there has to be that keystone. And this is where it all begins, you know? And we talked about
we're building the ark.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you read through the big book, that's the first stone of building the ark.
Yes.
We've set our foundation, right? By doing steps 1 and 2. And we're now we put the keystone in, and we're going to build the rest of through the rest of the steps, and we'll build our ark.
Yeah.
So,
well, Sky, how about you? What's your reason for taking your will back once in a while?
I think, like, pride, ego, not wanting to say I need help is a hard thing. So it's like, I don't want people to see me down, or like, I'll go to the food bank at the church down the street and say I'm struggling with some money. Like there's just stupid things I've done in this process, just scared and fear. But it's fear. It's fear.
Yeah.
Fear and trust.
Trust. Yes. The ACA book talks about that. We turn everything over without bargaining with God. You can't just let over some and not the rest. And I was like, oh, it's so true. Cause it's, it says, so we can begin by turning over self-hatred, self-doubt, or fear. We can talk to God to take away our compulsions, resentments, and learned rage. And then it's a process, and this is the process of learning trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the process, because the more we tell our stories or come on here each week and talk about our personal life, our personal life also, right? Not just our drunk-a-log, not just, whatever happened to us, but every time we share, we're breaking down those walls and becoming further and further and further, like you just said, Sky.
Yeah. And it says here in the Life Recovery book on page 23, and this kind of ties right into it. Trusting God with everything in our lives may be difficult because of our experiences from childhood to the present, in which people have repeatedly broken our trust, right? And that's tough because and we've repeatedly broken other people's trust too in us. And and when I look at things like, okay, well, if you're going to trust, if I'm going to trust you, you trust me. It's like that give and take. This step has to be done pure. It has to be done just for me. End of story. I can't worry about, okay, well, Skylar's not being honest, so fuck it. I don't have to be honest. Like Skylar took her will back. I can take my will back. No, I have to stand again. I have to stay on my own, keep my side of the street clean. And especially in this step is I have to really, because this can get kind of convoluted. You can get it kind of mixed up, especially if you're in a marriage or even with an employer. Maybe the employer is not 100% honest with you. So you're not 100% honest with the employer. Yeah, I'm sick today. No, yeah. Meanwhile, I'm at Great Adventure. I've gone to fucking roller coasters going up and down. That's not being honest. That's not, I'm just using that as an example. I don't go on roller coasters, and I very rarely take a day off. So, but you have to have that trust, and it doesn't matter what other people say or do, right? You have to keep your side of the street clean.
I like what you said about being honest. You guys know that because of my childhood and how I grew up and, past trauma, I trust nobody. And on top of that, I was independent. I was alone since I was 4. I made all my own decisions. I don't trust people to make decisions for me. That's why this step was big. Turn what over? Yeah, right. I've been in control my whole life. I'm not going to do that. But the getting honest, and it's not so much about the lying while using, just having the self-confidence enough to be honest was part of this step for me. As soon as my self-esteem started to build, my self-confidence, because as I got sober, the further along I was in step 1 and 2 and got to 3 and had some time under my belt, learned some tools, worked with a therapist, big time. I was confident enough to be honest. I wasn't worried about what people are going to say.
More honest than you realize, though, because when you said, I don't trust and I don't have faith in God, that you were being honest with us in the program when you first came around. And you were having trust a little bit to even be honest with us, to say you didn't believe in God or you didn't trust. So you were being honest before you even realized it.
I like that. So I
will say I didn't say that out loud to people in the beginning. How you were bold about, you were God, what are you talking about? I internalize everything.
Okay.
And so I wasn't saying that out loud. I was just okay, when I got comfortable enough to step through, I was okay, I'm ready. I never said that out loud, but until I started building some confidence, I internalized everything.
I
do now. Humility. I still do. So bad. So bad.
Well, Tiff, this gets right into what you're talking about. The next sentence: life has trained us to be skeptical and weary, to take charge of the situations because we don't trust anyone anymore.
Right.
So that's I mean, you're doing what society or what your community or what your situation told you to do as we got raised. Some of this stuff,
Survival.
guys. Yeah, survival.
Yeah.
Some of this stuff is what we learned. The dysfunction in our families, and I'm sure you can find a lot of that in the ACA book about the dysfunction of this step and the dysfunction of where how we do this step. Because think about it. I think how dysfunctional it would be to keep taking will back. Like, that's crazy. Like, if it's working this way where I'm giving my will up and my life is going good, why am I taking it back and messing it all up? Right? Why? I don't know why. I don't have the answer for that. I because I'm an addict, I'm an alcoholic, because every time I take it back, it just gets messed up again. If I let go, let God, or whatever the saying is that you want, it usually goes, and it gives me a clearer mind, guys. When I'm not thinking and obsessing and trying to control a situation, it gives me a clear mind so I can see the path I'm walking on. I don't have to be in the bushes. I don't have to bushwhack shit to get somewhere where I'm going. I could take that clear path when my mind is clear.
I have the Life Recovery Workbook out, and it's on page 26 where it says free to choose is really where we're at. On that first question says, what is it about my understanding of God that blocks me from deciding to turn my life and my will over to his care? That was where I had to really answer a tough question. Like, what is blocking me? And what I found out is that I didn't understand anything about religion or faith. And not that this is a religious program, but the God of my understanding, it's Christian based. And I didn't understand. I didn't know. And then I really didn't have any trust, And then someone said on one of your meetings, guys, something about, she said she thought what held her back from turning her will and her life over to the care of God, as she understood him, is that she had trauma from men. And so she kept looking at this image of a man. And that's something deep things to think about, working through that stuff. And that helped me. 2 years later, after I heard that, I was like 2 years sober when I heard that. And I was like, hey, I think that's probably what held me back for a while.
That's why we share, because we have no idea when we're going to hear what we need to hear.
Yeah.
But the ACA book talks about that. It says many of us still wonder if we deserve help. So that's why you're saying the confidence you need to build, the self-worth you need to build. And others wonder if we'll be rejected if we take the risk and ask. What?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That was the other thing. Fear of rejection. Fear of rejection was big for me too.
If they say no, they can't help me. Oh, then my true core belief that I'm not good enough to be helped is going to be true.
Yeah.
Woo!
And that shit. Yeah, exactly. And the next question that Tiffany was on page 26, how does fear affect my choices? That's a good fucking question, man. How does fear affect my choices? Fear can affect my choices in every way, from being scared to leave the house, from being scared to ask something. I was just working with somebody today, and they said that, I'm afraid to ask them. And what are you afraid to ask them? What they're going to say, yes or no? And if they say no, then you move on to the next person and ask that person, whatever. If they say yes, then you're in. But that fear, I understand that fear, that social anxiety, fear of rejection, fear of, there's an old saying.
Unknown.
Exactly. There's an old saying that that Jeff, our when he comes on, our clinical guy, Jeff Zazel, fall down 7, get up 8. And Thomas Edison, his whole thing is, it took him, it took 999 ways how not to invent the light bulb. Right. The 1000th way he invented the light bulb, or 10,000th way, whatever it was, he invented the light bulb. But if he didn't go through that process each time, and I always say it on the show, we wouldn't have this show. We wouldn't have light. We wouldn't have any of this stuff. Right. I mean, so you're going to fall down. You're going to get hurt. You're going to get bumped and bruised. That's how we learn. That's how we get through things. But fear can hold us back from learning. Fear can hold us back from whatever it is. And this is a big part of this step, is overcoming our fear. That's why I
like these questions, because we can go through, and this next section is redeeming the past.
Yep.
How do I hold God, the Redeemer, at arm's length and why? Or a higher power. How do I hold my higher power at arm's length and why? You know, I notice now I did that with Alcoholics Anonymous. I kept them at arm's length, you know, got all these workbooks, you know, I'm an educated woman. I'm like, I can read the stuff. I can do it. Right. And was keeping everybody and everything at arm's length. And here, now that I look back, I was doing the same thing with this step. I was keeping that, you know, God of my understanding at arm's length. Like, well, I know a little bit, but not enough.
Well, because we have to make a decision. We have to, it says right there.
And a commitment.
A commitment, you know, it's keep it at arm's length. I don't have to make a decision just yet, you know? And, you know, and I know a lot of couples probably go through this, but every time my wife goes, well, where do you want out to dinner? I don't know. Where do you want to go out to dinner? I don't know. Where do you want to go? You know, it's my commitment is, you know, I'm afraid I'm not going to tell her the right place, or I'm afraid you know, that's that fear of not making a commitment, not making a decision. So I'd rather put it on you and tell you to make that decision so I don't fuck it up. And I'm not learning if I do that. So if I say, let's go here to dinner, well, no, I don't like that. So I just learned something, right? Didn't I just learn something? She does not like Taco Bell. Well, she doesn't like Taco Bell anyways, but she does not like Taco Bell. So now I put that in the back of the memory and say, okay, don't say Taco Bell. Then, you know, and that's how we learn, guys. We keep on, I fell down. I said something, but you know, we go to the next one and then we learn. We fall down 7, get up 8.
This is the step where I finally got a sponsor. I finally had enough courage to ask a sponsor. Because that's where I stopped keeping A at arm's length. You know, I actually, that was a big deal because I approached a woman who I didn't know. And, you know, and I have trust issues, right? So I was asking for help, like Sky said. I don't like doing that. I was asking for help and actually letting somebody in, you know, on my life that I don't even know. It was crazy. But with her help is where she taught me. Bill said this was just a beginning. Just to start, right? Are you willing to do this? Are you willing to turn it over to that God of your understanding that you figured out in step 2? Are you willing to turn it over? Okay, well, let's start. Okay, that's it. Boom, start, move on.
Exactly. What fears have the most power in our lives, God? I mean, guys, God. What fears do God. That's a good question too. What fears have most power in our lives? Sky, what do you have for that?
What fears? Probably fears of things happening to my son. Like, you know, so I want to try to control that to make sure he's safe. You know, that's probably my biggest fear. I'm always scared he's going to
bubble around the kids. Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like my son, like, cause he's like what gave me life, you know?
Yeah. How about you, Tiff? What fears?
The biggest one that I'm working through is my fear of abandonment. Because there's so much with that. So just my fear of abandonment comes from, I'm going to cry. There's different layers to that fear of abandonment. You know, I put up walls to either not let anybody in the beginning because I don't want to be left behind. Right. Then I put myself in this. I've learned that I'm a people pleaser because I don't want to hear no. I want to make everybody happy. I can, you know, make you happy. Then you won't leave me. Or I pick the people that I have to save because if you need me, then you won't leave me.
Yep.
You know, there's so much, you know, and then, or when I'm in a relationship, any relation, doesn't matter who it is, I self-sabotage because just in case that's going to end, I'm going to end it first.
Yeah.
So that's a big one. And then I have a huge fear of losing a child or losing Chris. I really have a fear of losing, especially. Yeah. And I don't want to say especially. I have a big fear of losing Chris. Like, just he saved me.
It's
I
your
let
best
him
friend, your
in.
road dog.
He's my person.
I feel the same way about Charles.
What does it say about in that ACA book about that? Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No, there is some stuff on abandonment here for sure.
Yeah.
You know?
No, you're
there's
right.
a lot on abandonment.
Oh, yeah.
And that just ties in with a lot of control. And like, that's kind of like a technique we learned growing up, you know, survival.
Product of our environment, guys. I'm not saying to blame it on anything, but there is, we are a product of our own environment.
We had to survive.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that fear of abandonment gave me also this hyper awareness too. So I'm always tense, but I'm totally aware of everything that's going on around me. There's just so many layers to that thing, you know, and then where did it come from and how did it start, you know, and you know, was it your dysfunctional family or was it the alcohol and addiction or was it that you were abandoned for real or was it, you know, like I'm all sorts of fucked up.
I agree. Me too. I don't agree that you are. I agree that yes, I am too. Page 36 of the 12 and 12, it says, if I keep on turning my life and my will over to the care of something or somebody else, what would become of me? What would become of me, right? Is that what we're kind of talking about here? I don't have, like Tiffany, I'm going to use you as an example. I don't have Chris anymore, Skylar. I don't have Charles anymore. What am I going to do? What would become of me? You know, we have to, you know, so I'm going to keep those people close to me and I'm going to control. And I don't mean this in a bad way. I'm just saying, you know, that's the fear of abandonment. Somebody leaving us, you know, if somebody leaves me, it's okay. It'll happen. I'll get through it. I've been through 2 divorces already, you know, and I know Tiff, you've been through a divorce or 2 and,
oh yeah,
maybe even 3
or 4 yeah. Is anybody have checked the box off for their biggest goal this year is to get a divorce? I'm sure there is.
Finalize the divorce.
Comment below. Sure. Yeah. No, but seriously, like what would become of me? You're my identity. My drink was my identity. My fear is my identity. My car is my identity. My properties are my identity. Whatever it is, what would become me? So now I'm going to turn it all over and I have no identity anymore. Well, yeah, we do. Surrendering is what I think you said all Sky. Surrendering is winning, right?
Yeah. Surrendering is winning. And
winning.
The more dependent we are on God, the more independent we are as people.
Yes.
And you know what ACA points out that I don't see it at least in NA literature, but I could have missed it. But it says the more we let go of the more we let go, right, the stronger our boundaries become. Talks about that. And the ACA paradox, letting go creates stronger boundaries. I never thought about boundaries as far as that.
I would say that when I get intense or in fear mode or whatever, I go into like this blank space in my head. You know, it's a coping mechanism. Like I cut off all my feelings.
Oh yeah.
And until I can let that stuff go, or let whatever go, especially resentment or anger or fear, you know, let it go, let all that stuff go. Then I can see where I have set healthy boundaries along the way as I started letting go of those things. Because I understand now.
Yeah.
I understand
more
about myself.
Thinking that was a normal reaction. Like that was what you learned. It's your normal reaction. So now we're kind of derailing that and you know what I mean? Changing it.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. And I like that we sit here and laugh about our stuff. I really do, because I think that is really healthy. Laughter is so healthy.
Yes.
We have to laugh about our stuff. I'm glad I can look back and laugh now at some of this stuff. Like, like I let you stab me? What?
I know. And guys,
we all have a couple things.
Right? Exactly. And talking about
I relapsed on Sudafed. It's real.
Guys, this is also a product of our environment. There's a good product of our environment too, because this is what we do all the time. We are a product of our environment today because we surround ourselves with people. We do what we have to do. And it does seem weird. And maybe a newcomer's listening to this and saying, how can they laugh at being afraid? How can they laugh at being abused? And we're not laughing at it. We're just, we heal from our experience and we're moving on. So we're not laughing at the situation. And don't get me wrong, there is no way we're downplaying a situation. It's just that we were able to grow through it, and we're looking at our situation and moving through that situation.
Yeah, like change the narrative a little bit, the perspective and the lens I look at it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And guys,
not discounting it, it's just changing it up.
Exactly.
Fear of change is a big thing for me too. Once I know, like I need to know what's going on. not to control it. I just want to know. And if there's a sudden change, then I get
a little
thrown
squirrely.
off, right?
Not knowing is worse than
not knowing, right?
It could be the
Like,
worst news ever, but at least I know.
You're the unknown.
Yes.
It's better to dance with the devil you know than the devil you don't know.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, how true is that? I mean, it's not true, but but here's the thing. You dance with the devil that you know, you're going to get what you know. You're not going to grow. You're not going to learn. You're not going to do anything.
Get in what you put in. Exactly.
And then if you dance with the devil that you don't know, there's all kinds of possibilities. They said something today on, what was it? On I think on the meeting this morning about, trust, about offenses around trust. I forgot what they said. I'll remember what it said, but I'll get back to that. But is shame somehow connected to our fears? Do you guys think?
Yeah.
Shame. Why?
Shame, definitely.
Why shame?
Well, I feel like there's something wrong with me for not being able to do certain things, like turn my will over and control it. Or if I can't control it, there's something wrong with me. Like, like it's like comes down to that self-worth stuff. That's why we definitely have to work on that.
Yeah.
Or when I have to go through something painful, like in real life, in recovery, and stay clean. Like that's scary stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. You lose a job, you relapse, you miss a car payment, your credit
car accident recovery. I had a huge issue with that because I hadn't gotten a car accident since I was getting high. And it was like, it wasn't even, it was an accident. Shit happens. But I was like, a mess.
But all those what ifs, right? Are my shames. Like, well, what, like you said, what if I lose my job? Then what will people think of me? Or how shameful? I feel shame on myself, like when that happens and things like if I don't do something perfect.
Yeah.
I still do that. I still have those character defects. I still, I ask them to continue to be removed every single day. And the list is getting smaller.
Of course.
Right.
Of course. Yeah.
But it's,
I have a fear of reading, and you guys know my reading isn't the best, but you know what? I do it anyways, because there's only one way I'm going to get better is when better makes better, right? Better makes better. So if I keep doing and reading, I'll get better, and believe me, it's shameful. I'm like, I'm a 56-year-old man that I can read a book to myself, but when I'm reading out loud, I'm like, I got to practice it. I got to read it over and over. And a lot of times, as you guys know on the show, it doesn't come out right. So I used to avoid big book meetings where they would go around and read, or step meetings where they go around and read, or I wouldn't bring my glasses. Oh, I got to pass. I can't, I mean, I came up with all these crazy excuses. Now I'm like, you know what? I don't give a shit. I'll read a paragraph and it is what it is, because you know what? 3 other people are going to fumble and stumble through it too. And I don't care about if they do that. I'm proud at them, but why do I look at myself? Why am I ashamed of myself that I'm doing it? And when I can look at these other people and say, yeah, man, that's cool. You're taking a step to getting better. Why can't I see that in myself? Right. That's crazy.
Well, even I never would have done this before.
Yeah.
Made any sort of change like that because of fear of what people would think. Like, what is she doing? But people do what? Who cares? Like you said, who cares what people think about you, and it's none of your business what they think about you.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're right. It is none of my business what people think about me. And if I fumble through the only thing on this podcast, it's there forever. So you can't forget it, but no, it's okay. But you know what? That's a big fear. And my other big fear or being ashamed is my public speaking. I mean, I know I can speak in public, but what if I give somebody the wrong information? What if I state something wrong? Or what, like Tiff, you just said it, the what ifs. Who the fuck cares? Who the fuck cares about the what ifs? Just go do a good job, do what you have to do no matter what it is. Well, what if he or she says no to be my sponsor? What if I don't work the step right? Well, if you don't work the step right, you can always go back and redo it. It doesn't matter. If you have a good sponsor, they'll work you through it. And if they see you making a mistake, they'll pull you back and have you start again or start.
But that's exactly what the step does for us, though. It gives us like so in the how and why, it says on page 33, recovery doesn't exempt us from having to live through painful situations. At some point in our lives, we may have to mourn a death of a loved one or deal with end of relationship. When such things happen to us, we hurt, and no amount of spiritual awareness will take our pain away. We do find, however, that the caring presence of a loving power greater than ourselves will help us get through our pain clean. We may find that we are able to feel our higher power's presence in the group, our friends, or in talking to our sponsor. By tapping into the power, we begin to trust and rely on it. And we can cease questioning why painful things happen and trust that walking through the difficult times in our lives can strengthen our recovery. We can grow in spite of our pain and perhaps in response to it.
Yeah.
I love that paragraph.
Those, looking at the lessons learned through all of those challenges that come at us and the pain that we are going through. And it's just really, like I said last week, we're really part of an incredible program. I'm so grateful that I got sober, and I'm even more grateful for the 12 steps because they're so applicable to life. Chris told me the other day, he was listening to the podcast that came out on Tuesday. And he called and he said, these podcasts really changed my life. Aww. I learned a lot from, and he's like, he's not in recovery. He's not in recovery.
All this stuff can be applied like across the board. I have friends that are in recovery that come to me and I'm like, I'm reading them pretty much shit. Like I just read that paragraph and it's relating to them. So it's not just for us.
Yes.
We all need some spiritual elements in our life to get through some stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible that we can use this everywhere, apply it to every situation and learn from it. Like this step says, learn from it no matter what, right? We have to be willing and have faith, and you learn to trust in it the more you rely on it, and here we go. There's nothing but up from here.
Yeah, and like Sky said, apply the spiritual principle in our lives, faith, especially in this step, So
there's a prayer that I use when I either need to give something over or whatever. Like I said, I have trust issues with people, and I had to learn to give it to God. And this is what the first prayer I wrote as I was working on this step. Just like me, and I'll use my name. You put whatever thing, person, place, thing in this thing. Sorry, that's the dog. Just like me, Tiff is seeking some happiness for her life. Just like me, Tiff is trying to avoid suffering in her life. Just like me, Tiff has known sadness, loneliness, and despair. Just like me, Tiff is seeking to fulfill her needs. And just like me, Tiff is learning about life. And that was the prayer, learning to pray and give it to God, because that was another fear I had was praying. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know what to say. I thought it had to be perfect.
Is there an order? You have to say certain things a certain way.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Catholic religion, I was taught, and Episcopalian, like we had to do it a certain way. I mean, there was order and structure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What do I say? How do I say it? I had no knowledge of none of this stuff, so this was a big deal for me. I was on August 27th, 2019, when I was working through this, and talking about it. And I love that prayer. I use it if I have a resentment, working through a resentment. So I use it a lot with, all the steps. Really, I use this.
Yeah.
Really, all of it,
Well, the next part of the book, it goes into discovering God, what Tiffany was just talking about. You're discovering God at this point. You're praying. You're figuring out like the higher power has a better chance of doing this than I do. And it says here, how does my life reflect in my image of God at any given moment? So I see that as prayer, reflect my image of God at any given moment. So I have to be ready at any given moment. And correct me if I'm wrong, you guys might have a different take on this. I have to be ready to turn my will and my life over at any given moment. Really. I mean, whatever I shouldn't say at any given moment, but whatever situation comes up, if it's a situation that I can't handle, if it's a situation that, that may not require action, or it may require action, but not the controlling action that I want to give it. I want to fix. what's the action,
but the conscious contact's important for that.
Yes. Yeah.
So
exactly.
That's why we have to be like, for me, I don't know about you guys. For me, the meditation, I have a place I go in my mind. Like I literally have a place, like it's a little cave enclosed in water, and that's where we talk. Nice. So but that's why that conscious contact's huge, because then how do we know what to do? I surrender, but then what? Yeah.
Exactly. Then what? Yeah. Prayer. How do you pray? Tiff, again, discovering God. There's no wrong or right way to pray.
No,
I get on my
and
knees
that's what I was told. Like when I started working through this, and there was a spiritual advisor I was actually relying on, I trusted, and I was writing this stuff down. All this stuff is written in a journal, writing out that whole prayer every time, because I still had that fear of not saying it correctly out loud. But I got there. I wrote it down. I used a different, practice. And then now I just like recite it at the grocery store in my head, if I need to, like this bitch is just like me.
Yeah.
And she is seeking some happiness in her life, like whatever, right? But
the bitch with all the ice cream in her fucking cart, right? And all the cookies and all the
how does my life reflect my image of God at any given moment? I guess I try to, the book says our job is to go out and do his bidding, right? So I guess that's how I visualize my life, is questioning, am I doing his bidding? If I'm, when I'm in a situation, it gives me that, I guess right here, this is where I have that pause, so in my life, how does my life reflect, is I reflect by pausing, like I would think God would, or whatever, and before I answer, or before I react, or anything like that. And am I being kind? Am I, doing good in the world? Whatever, even just to my kids, to my neighbor, and so I feel like that answers that question at any given moment.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do his bidding.
Yeah. That's definitely a tough one to answer, but it is a good question, because again, at any given moment, anything could happen. Anything could happen. We get bad news, we get good news, we get a raise, we get whatever. You know what I mean? And it could go either way. So and I like these questions. I'll just go down the line here. How do I find? This is a good one. How do I define the word surrender? We just talked about that not too long ago, right? Surrender, surrender is surrender to win. That is the hardest thing to comprehend, to wrap my surrender and winning is two different things. Surrender is losing, and winning, is how do you surrender to win? Well, you do, because you're turning all your bullshit, the bullshit thoughts that you have over, and let somebody else handle, or your higher power handle. I should say me. I'm turning my will and my life over to well, I'm, a decision, made that decision to do that. A decision is surrendering also, right? I'm going to make this decision to turn my will and my life over, right? I'm going to make this decision to put it into somebody else's hands. That's surrendering. If you think about it, put it in somebody else's hands. Tiff, here's a project. I'm going to let you handle it, right? Yeah. I'm done. And I know it's going to get done. And if you want to look at it a very simple way, that's how you do it. Now, taking my will back, and Tiff knows this one. Hey, Tiff, did they call yet? Hey, Tiff, did they get the email back? Hey, Tiff, did they, right? How many times did you hear that? Like Ed? How many times did you hear that, right? And what was your answer?
You'll be the first to know.
There you go, right? That's how it works. I kept taking my will back, and something simple as that. I kept taking my will back. I mean, I was excited about the situation. Don't get me wrong, but if I'm going to trust, first of all, if I'm going to have a higher power, I'm going to turn my will over. I need to trust a person that's going to do a task for me. I have to have that basic trust. I have to surrender my stuff over to somebody that's going to help me, and I don't need to check up on them. I need to let it go. And that's where I'm turning my will and my life go over to the God of my understanding. is when I take my will back. Hey, God, how's it going? Hey, God, how's it going? Hey, God, did I hit that lottery yet? You can't do that. You can't do that. And he will be the first one to tell me. They will be the first one to tell me that it's going well. Seriously.
Yeah.
I'll get every indication, every sign, everything that I can get if I turn my will over. If I don't,
you're so right.
Yeah. If I don't, my mind isn't open. My mind isn't clear. My mind doesn't have that clear path. And I'm trying to think of 10,000 different other things. And here's the shitty part of it. When my mind isn't clear and I'm not thinking right, I might have lost that. It might have went by me already. I might have jumped over it when I was trying to do something. Yep. And that path, that path wasn't cleared. And I messed it up by trying to take control over it,
Sure. I would say surrender to me is, I like the phrase, let go and let God. Mm-hmm. But I think it's kind of twofold. Accepting where my 2 feet are at today, right now, right? I'm just right here, and really being present and just letting everything else go and let God. But that's how I felt about surrender. How about you, Sky?
I'm a visual person, you know what I mean? And I remember Rob said this to me a long time ago. He doesn't remember saying it, but it's something I never forgot, kind of thing, right? He said, you could have a comforter, Skylar, but you're holding on to a thread. And when I think of surrender, I think about that. Like, if I just let go of this one little piece of thread, I could be all snug up in this blanket. So I like to visualize, you know what I mean? But that's what I always think about with surrender.
That's great. That's great.
Surrender.
She's writing it down.
Yeah. Just writing everything down. You should see these notes when she freaking gets done. So
you're gonna write a book.
I know.
I'm always looking down. I'm always writing.
What does resistance look like in your lives, guys? Resistance, and again, this is being single-minded, being kind of wrapped up in yourself. What does resistance look like? Because if we're not single-minded, and if we're thinking of others, and we're turning our lives over, we wouldn't have any resistance, right? Mm-hmm. Eventually, that resistance will either break down one way or the other. What do they say? It's either motivation or desperation at some points, right? You're either motivated or you have desperation. And that's kind of, I think, what this says to me is when I'm resisting something, that's desperation. I'm grasping for something just to try to hang on to it. When I'm motivated, I'm going to go out. I'm going to teach people. I'm going to learn from people. I'm going to get on I'm going to listen to a podcast. I'm going to get on a meeting. That's when the resistance doesn't hit my life. That's when my sponsor says, go to a meeting. That's when my sponsor says, write a step 4 and do a step 5. That's when, my wife asked me to take the garbage out. Fuck you. You take the garbage out. Well, that would not go well, right? That would not go well. And I don't think you would say that to your wife. So why would I say that into my life? Why would I not go to a meeting? Why would I resist going to a meeting in my life? Why? Because I take my will back, because I don't have faith in somebody, Sure. I'm not going to go to a meeting tonight. And when you say that, and then you do go to a meeting, it's the best damn meeting you ever went to in
always
your life, right? What about you?
Or it's the worst, and then you but you still got one great message,
Yeah.
Resistance. Did you say my name? Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Ladies, I said. So.
Not growing, not changing, not accepting, what's coming at me, what's really happening, resisting that, not accepting that stuff. This is kind of where I talked about when I start to resist things, I know when I'm doing it, because that's when I start cutting off those emotions and those feelings, where I go into that space where it's ignoring everything else. Right. Mm-hmm. As a coping mechanism. And so just not accepting change, not having acceptance in your life is resistance to me, and not growing or changing.
And being a martyr, right? Or being the victim instead of the victor, right?
Sure.
That's huge. When you resist anything, oh, well, why should I do that? It's not going to give me anything good anyways. I tried it before and I failed. I didn't do it right. Or that's the martyr. That's the victim. That's a victim mentality. And I get stuck in that a lot too. I'm not a lot, but I get stuck in it every once in a while.
And not a lot. You don't. No way.
No, not a lot.
I love newcomers.
But it happens.
You know, I always hear, oh, well, the steps aren't going to work for me, but they've never done it.
AA
like,
doesn't
I
work.
chocolate pudding,
I tried it once. I know.
You never even tasted the shit, you know? So I'm not trying to.
Yeah, I used to think that the pills weren't going to work for me either. So I took twice as much.
But Sky, that's a good point you bring up. Talk more about that. I love that. It's true. You know, this isn't going to work for me. You know, it's AA. It's not going to work for me.
So I'm not trying to like overly give Rob credit, but there's another saying he taught me, and it's what I think all the time. And I say this, and I'm telling you guys, it's going to stick with you. The more you persist, the more they resist. Then you can reverse it. The more they resist, the more they persist. So like, if I'm trying to fix, manage, control, manipulate a situation because I think I know what's best, that's when it's really not working.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I just always think about that. When I resist it, it's actually going to make it worse.
So really the correct answer is taking our will back.
Yes, that's exactly it. Yes.
Right.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. The next question is, what do I have to face in myself when I draw myself closer to God? When I draw closer to God, what do I have to face in myself when I draw closer to God? Like the truth. I think I have to face the truth. I can't lie from God. I can't hide from God. The God of my understanding, or my HP, or my universe, or whatever, is all knowing. So
that my beliefs are false. That all the beliefs I have about myself are wrong. Yeah,
exactly. And if I try to lie or try to, I know when I'm trying to pull one over on God. I know, foxhole prayers, right? I swear, God, this will never happen again. Perfect example. No, I promise, just get me out of this DUI. I always use a pocket full of cocaine and the DUI line. Just maybe they'll break it up before I get up there, or maybe they won't find the cocaine, or, whatever it is, and that's a perfect example of, I'm drawing God close to me, but I'm also fucking lying to him because he knows in my addiction, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that.
I feel like I have to face what do I have to face in myself when I draw close to God is I have to face reality.
Yeah.
Because when I'm talking to him, it's all about reality. Whether I'm admitting something or, asking, praying for someone, saying things, I'm really actually saying it out loud, or even just in my head. It's like, oh, that's really happening. That's real.
Shatter denial.
That's real, right? Yes. No more denial.
Yeah.
I'm actually facing.
Once you're out of there,
reality.
You can't go back. It sucks so bad.
I
know. It's like, I said it. I can't take it back.
Yeah. Once you get out of there, you cannot go back.
You
cannot know something.
Just like this podcast. Once we say it, we can't get it back.
That's it. I know. Unless Carl doesn't produce it, and then we just have nothing up. But no, you're right. Once like John L on our meetings, he always says, I need the unseen juice, right? When you see something that or when you say something, and this is it right here. You cannot take it back once you do it. It's so true. So, we have one more here. How is addiction connected to my resistance to God's direction in my life? That's a tough one. I don't know. How's my addiction connected to my resistance to God's direction in my life? Well, that's taking my will back, I'm guessing, because, I guess my addiction kicks in, or whatever it is, when I'm taking my will back. I don't quite understand that. Do you ladies have anything to talk about?
When I put the two words like addiction and resistance together, that's kind of it is about my self-will, and my addiction brings out that all or nothing thinking, and which is resistance to, whatever, accepting life on whatever it is. My addiction brings out the worst in me. And so that is where, when it brings out the worst in me, is when I talk to God less. I notice that when my addictive behaviors come out in me, I start resisting God. And then
we need each other.
I start changing everything.
Have you prayed? I need people to say that because you're right. As soon as I start getting in that mood, I forget all about prayer and God.
Yes. Right?
Yeah.
So that's why I need you guys to be like, Skylar, did you pray?
Yeah.
Like, that's something so simple, but we need to say it to each other.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, guys, I'm going to end the show here with this little bit. And if you guys want to join me, this is a perfect way of ending the step and the show, right? I'm going to read it from page 41. The last little paragraph here. It says, where is it? In all times of emotional disturbance or indecisions, we can pause, ask for quiet, and in the stillness, simply say, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Thy will, not mine, be done.
Amen.
I mean, how can you say it better than that?
Stay
sober.
Wait.
Oh, go ahead.
Goodbye, step 3.
Goodbye, step 3. Yes.
Hello, step 4.
Yeah, step 4 next week. Step 4 next week. Yeah. Next week, you guys will be listening to step 4 and it'll be fun, but that is a perfect way to end it, guys. And great show, ladies. We did a lot of soul searching this month, a lot of things that we're proud of, not so proud of on these shows. If you guys want to kind of take a step back at the beginning of this and listen to all step 3, I think it'll help. And again, this is just our opinion. This is what we went through. This is what our sponsors went through. And this is how we learn. And again, it's not set in stone. It may not be right for you. Pieces of it might be. And just take what you need out of this and leave the rest for others.
I've realized a lot in myself about this step. I've seen a lot in myself. I've noticed a lot. I've learned a lot as we've reviewed this step over the last month.
Yeah. If you want to learn a lot about a step, do a podcast on the step of the month. Seriously.
Oh, yeah.
All right, y'all. Skylar's got a big night ahead.
That's it. Stay sober, everybody.
This concludes this episode of Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast. Follow us on Facebook for past shows and updates, and enjoy free access to twice daily support meetings. Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.